This week, President Mugabe faced a surprise challenge to his 28-year grip on power, and it came from a former ally, Simba Makoni. The ex-finance minister has decided to stand against President Mugabe in next month's elections, a decision that has led to his expulsion from the ruling party. But what does this all mean for Zimbabwe, and does Simba Makoni have any real chance, a realistic chance of winning? To discuss this, I'm joined by Mutumwa Mawere, leading businessman in Zimbabwe until unfortunate events took place, which we'll come on to, and he's the chairman of the Africa Heritage Society. And you can talk about the treatment people get from Robert Mugabe in personal terms, because he took away your business, he confiscated your business.
The entire business empire was nationalized in September 2004 through the promulgation of a decree using emergency powers conferred on the president.
And how much, effectively, how much money did he, by that means, steal from you? How much was it worth?
About $400 million US.
Really?
Employing about 20,000 people. I think a total of about 26 companies, 7 listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, spanning from mining, financial services, manufacturing.
And so 20,000
employees.
And today, that group of companies having been taken over by the state, how many does it employ today?
I don't know, but they're still operating.
They're still operating? They're
still operating, but under the control of a state-appointed administrator.
And what about the new guy we were just hearing about there? Does he have a chance?
Yeah, I think one correction, he's not standing against President Mugabe. He's standing for presidency of Zimbabwe. So there are many other candidates who have offered themselves for the job. So I think it's more positive that the Constitution of Zimbabwe does not preclude anyone from offering themselves for the position of president. And it is unfortunate that the last 28 years, the country only has known of one leader.
How many people can actually stand against President Mugabe in the election?
Not stand against him, but stand for. I think they have 13 million Zimbabweans. Anyone under the Constitution can stand for the job. But it depends on how much support you have.
But if they're standing for the job that Mugabe wants, yeah, surely they're standing against Mugabe's interests?
No, he may have an interest, but the people of Zimbabwe have also interest. And those are the people who decide. At the moment you have submitted yourself to an electoral process, it means you are allowing people to make a choice. And even President Mugabe would accept that he has nothing new to offer. Even if he was given 5 more years as president of the country, I don't think Zimbabwe will be best served by him being a president. So in that construction, you have to locate Simba Makoni as just one of many, but maybe a more promising option for Zimbabwe.
Yes, because there's the movement for democratic change as well, isn't there? I mean,
for the last 8 years, they've been offering change. But after 8 years, there is no change. So even if you are in business and you fail to invoice for 8 years, you must then look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this the right change that I'm promising? Because at some stage, it has to resonate with the people of Zimbabwe.
But I mean, the danger is also that, well, it's crooked, it's rigged, there's bullying going on, there's worse than bullying going on. So we probably get Mugabe by spurious means again.
But an idea whose time has come cannot be deferred. If Zimbabwe today is pregnant with problems, at some stage you have to have a midwife, you have to give birth to a new reality. I don't believe that people of Zimbabwe are necessarily so stupid not to see that President Mugabe does not offer change. Even himself, he must accept that.
He sees himself probably not as a midwife, but as the nanny of Zimbabwe, but he's not such a lovable figure as that. Anyway, thank you very much for being with us. That's a very interesting angle there on the elections that are coming up in Zimbabwe. This weekend, the Bangladesh Supreme Court will rule on a High Court decision to clear former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of corruption charges. And Mayfreer from detention too. 9 months ago, as you may recall, Sheikh Hasina sat on this very sofa as she contemplated her return home from London. She'd been expelled by the interim administration in Dhaka, which is preparing Bangladesh for, quote, free and fair, unquote, elections at the end of this year. Shortly after leaving this studio, she flew back to Bangladesh. Weeks later, she was arrested on charges of corruption, and she hasn't been freed since. Her nephew, Radwan Siddiq, is with me right now, and it's a tense time, this, Radwan, isn't it? Because the High Court have made a decision that you must be pleased about, but the Supreme Court could spoil it all, couldn't it?
Yes, the High Court verdict was welcomed by everyone in Bangladesh because it vindicated what we've been saying, that Sheikh Hasina's trial should be tried under the normal laws. I mean, as you mentioned, she was here, the government tried to exile her, but she actually fought very hard to fly back to Bangladesh and face these charges in an open court under the laws of the land. But what the government did was they tried her cases under the emergency power rules. And one of the key elements of that was denying her bail. And so now that this has been overruled, we're hopeful that hopefully the Supreme Court will uphold it and show the courage to do the right thing at a very critical moment in Bangladeshi politics.
Because if they release her, effectively in their judgment, she would become a political force again immediately, wouldn't she?
Yes, she would. I mean, as you probably remember, when the government did try and exile her, it caused uproar in Bangladesh and abroad. When she went back, there were thousands of people to greet her on her return, and she remains by far the most popular politician in Bangladesh. And the government should not fear the fact that if she comes out, she will be a political force. She's always been a political force. But if they're serious about returning the country to democracy, they have to let the popular leaders contest in the elections. They can't use emergency power rules, the state of emergency, to detain someone like Sheikh Hasina and on the one hand speak about their commitment to democracy. You know, it just doesn't tie up.
And in fact, she's been treated well as far as you can work out, or are you all allowed to visit? Or?
Well, we haven't been in touch with her directly since she was arrested. I actually spoke to her the night of her arrest literally while she was being taken away, and she said, you know, don't worry about me, I'll be fine, stay strong. And since then, she's only been allowed one phone call to her children who live in America. She's allowed sporadic visits, and we hear what we can from her lawyers. We've written her a few letters, but we heard that she hasn't received them. She sent us messages saying that she sent us letters, but we haven't received them. And she's kept in this special jail, which is basically being kept in solitary confinement. And her health is not so well at the moment. So a combination of these factors, I think they are taking their toll on her, but her spirit is still very strong.
What would happen if the Supreme Court said that they would order her release or sanction her release, provided she agreed to leave the country, for instance? What would she say to that?
I mean, an offer like that was pretty much on the table when they tried to exile her, and she refused, because her point is, and you spoke to her about this as well, that she's been fighting for democracy in Bangladesh for a very, very long time. She's dedicated her life to it, and she just doesn't see any reason why she would have to make any deal which would make her leave the country. She loves the country, she loves the people, she loves her party, and I don't think she would ever agree to that. And part of that is because she's confident that any of the charges against her, none of them will stick if they're taken through the courts in the normal process under the laws of the land.
And her big rival over the years is also in detention at the moment.
Yes, that's right.
Khalida Zia, yes?
Yes, none of her cases have been brought to the courts yet, but it's the same. It doesn't matter if it's Sheikh Hasina, Khalida Zia, or any other politician. All the trials should be conducted in an open manner under the laws of the land.
Do you think that the election, free and fair election, will go ahead?
I think there's severe doubts over the possibility of a free and fair election, and in fact about an election at all. I mean, recently the Election Commission said that we will not be able to give a date for the elections till September. Now that would have been after a year and 9 months of being charged, so there are doubts cast over it. Also the attempt to try and, the primary reason for trying to get a conviction is under emergency power rules. If you have a conviction, you can't stand for election. Whereas under normal rules, you go through the whole judicial process up to the Supreme Court. But under the emergency power rules, you can get a conviction in any court, and that's it. You can't go to elections. So if they're trying to manipulate who can and who cannot participate in the elections using these rules, then it casts a serious doubt over their sincerity in holding free and fair elections.
Because, I mean, having talked to her here and you having talked to her just before she went to prison and so on, I mean, I would have said that she would want to get back into politics, wouldn't she, when she comes out?
Well, her support in the party is stronger than ever. The party still want her to lead them. In terms of her personal decision, like I said, we haven't really been in touch with her.
Yeah.
And once she comes out, she would have to assess what she feels is the best for the country and for the party, and I think she'll take a decision based on that.
Well, the first day of decision, as it were, comes this weekend, and it's good to talk to you on the eve of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. In a minute, I'll be talking to the world's most famous conductor and pianist, Daniel Barenboim. He's terrific. That's after the news, which is next.